Call the regular meeting of City Council for Tuesday, May 6, 2025 to order. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory and the traditional home of the Cree, Danazé, Saulteaux, Sicanee, and Slavey First Nations. We value the Métis peoples that live and gather here. We commit to upholding the respectful relationships these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. First order of business is 2 delegations. Did you want to grab? You guys can all come in if you want. We have Joe Hawkins, Shirley Larson, Rob Jones, Brian Farquhar, Garrett Tower, and Bill Hutchison, all from the Public Works Department, with the City of Dawson Creek in attendance regarding the proclamation to declare May 18th to the 24th, 2025 as Public Works Week in Dawson Creek. Morning, welcome everyone.
Thank you.
I will read this out. So whereas Public Works Week is to be held across Canada from May 18th to the 24th, 2025, and whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital to the sustainability and resilience of communities, as well as to the public health, quality of life, and the well-being of the people of the City of Dawson Creek. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated effort of Public Works professionals, who are engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation systems, water supply, and treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other essential structures and facilities. And whereas 2025 marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and promoted in Canada by the Canadian Public Works Association. Now therefore, I, Darcy Dober, Mayor of the City of Dawson Creek, do hereby proclaim May 18th to the 24th as Public Works Week in the City of Dawson Creek, and encourage all citizens to join me in the important recognition of the contributions of Public Works professionals both in our community and across Canada. So an amazing way to start the morning, but just to actually have all of you here today is, I just want to thank you for taking the time. What you guys do every day is critical to our community, and I don't know if you get the recognition that you deserve all the time. Being in the public eye can be a bit different, but we see it, like what you do for our community, and whether that's our roads or our water or out mowing lawns. Like I see you guys out all the time doing things, and it is clear that you care about our community. And I think it's very important to this council that we're a team. Like, we're all in this together, and we try to practice what we preach. And none of this can't be done without all of us working together. So we are just extremely grateful for all of you. So I mean it when I say it, that I'm grateful that you guys took the time to come in here, because we don't get this opportunity too often to thank you for what you do, and it's appreciative. Our community is an amazing community, and it looks great. So it's we got water to our taps. But yeah, no, just wanted to take the time to thank you, and we really do appreciate it. So pass that on to your teams, and so just thank you.
So thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you. I will sign this. Sign this, and then where you want me to stand? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
Back to
Thank
work.
you. Thank you. Unless you guys want to add something.
Who's that guy? Hold on.
All right. Next order of business is 2.2. We have Lori Knudsen and Ann Tabak with South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society in attendance regarding proclamation to declare May 2025 as the Hospice Palliative Care Month in Dawson Creek. So, good morning, ladies. And welcome. Whereas Hospice Palliative Care Month is to be observed in Dawson Creek in May 2025, And whereas the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society is a community-based nonprofit organization formed in 1989, dedicated to providing comfort, support services, and resources to individuals, families, and friends facing end-of-life loss and life-limiting illness. And whereas palliative care is a specialized form of healthcare that focuses on comfort, dignity, and quality of life for individuals and families living with life-limiting illness, whether at home, in hospital, or in a care facility. And whereas the society's trained volunteers provide compassionate championship and emotional support to those facing end of life, helping to improve their quality of life through presence and attentive listening. And whereas the South Peace Hospice Palliative Care Society, affiliated with both the BC Hospice and Palliative Care Association and the Canadian Hospice Palliative Care Association, promotes awareness, education, and access to high-quality palliative care for all Canadians. Now therefore, I, Darcy Dober, Mayor of the City of Dawson Creek, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Hospice Palliative Care Month in the City of Dawson Creek, and encourage all citizens to join me in this worthy observance. So, yeah, just congratulations and thank you. I think what you do is, I mean, it's obvious, like you give everything you have to these individuals that need this at that point in life. And I've known Lori for a long time, and
Yes.
you know, you have a huge heart and have always given back so much to our community. So it's just it's an honor always to do this with you. So not just because of our relationship, but just because who you are as a person and what you do. So yeah.
Same. I know, it's cool to know the mayor.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm sorry.
Is this for real?
No, I was like, I know that guy. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
I'm just going to
Peace.
pass you the mic, Lori,
Okay.
just for if there's those that are listening.
I just want to say thank you to our community. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the community to support us. So we have an amazing, like you said before, an amazing group of people that live here. And yeah, so thank you everybody here. And also the thing I'd love to stress is that if you're facing end-of-life care or you know someone who it is, please just reach out to us on Facebook, because we don't have a website, or call the office. I'll leave a pamphlet here for you. And that's all you need. You don't need a referral or anything, just a phone call, and we'll help you and support you the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh.
If you want to just, I don't know, do you want me to leave them up front?
No, I can grab them. Yeah,
Okay.
I can. Is that just pamphlets on?
Yeah.
On what you, okay, awesome.
Picture.
Yeah, take your time.
Have a good day. Take care.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks.
All right, next order of business 2.3, we have James Maxwell, President, Dawson Creek Triathlon Association, in attendance regarding a request for support for the Dawson Creek Triathlon on July 13th, 2025. So, good morning and welcome.
Thank you,
just
Mayor and Council.
Could you just push the button on that mic there, Mr. Maxwell?
Center?
Yeah, I keep wanting to say Mr. Maxwell from school days, but there you
Hard
go.
to stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
It's hard to stop. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Dawson Creek Triathlon will take place on Sunday, July 13th, 2025 at the Canboric Aquatics Centre. This will be our 10th year of operation. Highlights. We've always hosted 2 distances of adult races, an adult duathlon, which is run, bike, run, youth races, and relays for adults. With the addition of the family relay in 2023, we have relays for youth. So it could be a parent and a couple of children. I have a couple of nephews and that do the race together. It is possible that youth registrations in 2025 will equal the adult ones. Having the youth events does really sort of jack up the fun factor and increases spectators. The race attracts athletes and families from Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, Chetwynd, Taylor, Cecil Lake, Prince George, Charlie Lake, PRRD, Pouce Grand Prairie, Fairview, St. Isidore, Bonanza, Edmonton, Sexsmith, the municipal district of Greenview, Victoria, and Stony Plain. For 2025, a Fairview contingent numbering 16 youth and 4 adults will make the Dawson Creek Triathlon their culminating event. Some of these youth have participated since inception in 2016. The event has good local community support in terms of in-kind donations from the City of Dawson Creek, Lawrence Meat, Rotary, Mountain View Safety, Whitetail Energy, Dawson Creek Seals, Tiger Stationers, and Dawson Co-op. The event requires about 35 volunteers to host, which come from Dawson Creek primarily. The race boasts a great cycle course that locals call the Back Road to Pouce Coupe, which is rural residential with one tough hill. The run course blends pavement and the Dawson Trail, which passes through a riparian zone on the Dawson Creek. Youth athletes do not use Highway 2 as adult cyclists do and are kept close to the Kenborough Aquatics Centre on quieter local roads and the Dawson Trail for the run. A barbecue for athletes and volunteers hosted by Rotary and supplied by Lawrence Meat finishes the morning. This event is sanctioned by Triathlon BC and registered athletes are covered by an insurance policy. The event is expensive to host due to some costs such as a traffic management contractor, timing system, athlete t-shirts, such that athlete registration fees cover only half the cost and we must fundraise every year. The good news is that our fundraising efforts this year have been very successful. So successful they will no longer have to borrow an inflatable arch from Grand Prairie that has the wrong name on it. We will be purchasing branded equipment, such as our own inflatable arch, a canopy, and a photo awards backdrop, all with our logo and the name Dawson Creek, the home of what has become such a good event for many in the BC and Alberta Peace region. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I guess just before I open it up, I wanted to just first congratulate you on 10 years.
Yeah.
That is a huge milestone, and it's such an amazing event for our community and the region. So just thank you for all your efforts and all that help. And then the youth part, I mean, it's just to see the focus on youth and you saying that, you know, this year could be the first year where youth participation could be as much as adults. That's it's just amazing to, in all aspects, right? It's teaching youth that it's, you know, ways to live, right? Healthy ways to live and take care of yourself. So, yeah, just wanted to thank you and congratulate you. So,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, I concur with what the Mayor said. I think it's important to say that the good news about your finances is because of the good support of the energy sector. I think that should be mentioned.
Yeah.
Just as you shared with me privately about the challenges with NDIT, I have a solution. You said there's one tough hill. I think that hill should get a special name, and then this would possibly be deemed a special event by NDIT. I think we should put that to your committee to come up with a suggested name.
So Trailway and Trail Sub could become something really, really geographically special. So Mr. Parslow has been, I shared with him earlier that I really had it out with NDIT, and even the grant writer from Dawson Creek and PRRD, like they were all in the conversation, and the end result is that the Dawson Creek Triathlon is not special enough for NDIT.
To receive support, yes.
To receive any financial support. And even Mr. Dober was, I found out you were in on the conversation as well a little bit, and and that's fine. It's fun. I mean, it's good to be eventually told to stop scratching at the door and go somewhere else, and that's kind of what happened. So it's all good, you know. So anyway.
Just one final comment. You said participant from the municipal district of Greenview.
Yeah,
I didn't know anybody lived in that municipal district.
but that's what they put on their registration.
Is that right?
So anyway, just threw that in there.
Well, one of the city councillors from Grand Prairie, who the mayor and some staff and myself met with in Grand Prairie last week, said that there's nobody lives there. So when you listed somebody, that grabbed my attention. I'll tell Grant Berg that he's wrong. There's one person
Yes,
at least.
right,
Okay.
He wants to meet him, he can come to our triathlon.
Yeah. Oh, and like a little comment about smoke. So last year there was smoke, but always in the mornings the smoke was a little better. The air was cooler, and only 6 people did not participate out of about 90 registered, and we had a really fine morning. Like it was okay. So anyway,
Nice.
just like to thank you all for your support, and really, it is a rockin' event. Like really, the like already at amateur sport, the ambiance is very positive, right? In amateur sport, it's a whole bunch of people that are thinking positive. Well, triathlon's even a step up from that. The people are really happy, and the music's humming.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
and we're feeding them.
Yeah.
So, anyways, like to thank you very much.
Yeah.
One more time.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Parsons.
Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, just before you leave, I don't know, is there any other thing different on these requests, Kevin, that we should ask any questions
No,
about
through your
now?
worship, I think everything is pretty typical of years past.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay,
Thanks
just
a lot.
wanted to make sure. Yeah, thank you very much.
have a good
and-
day.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next order of business is 2.4. We have Dr. Yulan Lee, CEO and Chief Geologist, Kim Dang, Executive Director, Judy Matkaluk, Regulatory Affairs and Engagement Management, and Peter Hang, Engagement Coordinator, CTI Plus Resources, in attendance by teams regarding introduction to the Rocky Creek Coal Project. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Good morning. Can you hear me? Should I try again? Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, you can? Okay.
I can hear you, Mayor.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. And sorry if I didn't get any of the names correct, so I apologize for that in advance. But yeah, but good morning, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you. And thank you for meeting with us this morning. And we're here today to present to you who we are, CTI Plus Resources, and all about the Rocky Creek Metallurgical Coal Project. And before I start, I just want to say a special thank you to Ashton for all her assistance to arrange for us to be here this morning to meet with you. And so, okay, let's get started. I know I have 10 minutes to give you all the highs, all the information on the Rocky Creek project. Hey, and joining me today, just to give you a little bit about my background. I'm from the Peace Country. I'm a geologist. I worked in the oil and gas industry for a number of years in Northeast BC. And I've been working on metallurgical coal projects in Northeast BC since about 2010. And I'm just and joining me today is Dr. Lee and Yulan. I'll let Yulan give a little briefing on his bio.
Yuling Lee, I'm CEO of CTI Plus, with our geologist and also technical lead of the company for mine study and environmental assessment. I've been working as a geologist in Canada over 20 years and 22 years actually. So working on the mining industry and as a oil gas industry as a consultant for many years before I worked for the CTI Plus in 2019. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
And Peter's also joining us. And Peter, go ahead with a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, you bet. Sorry, I'll go pretty quick here. Hi, Peter Hang. Working in engagements with CTI Plus as well. Pretty familiar with the Dawson Creek area. Spent a decade plus with TC Energy, most recently on Coastal GasLink, and yeah, come from the energy industry as well. Nice to meet everyone.
And I'll go through it, and then at the end, we're happy to answer any questions you have. So, okay, let's get started. So, Peter, we can go on to the next slide. So, yeah, again, we're just talk a little bit about us, and give you a project overview, our social commitment to Dawson Creek and the communities where we're working, how we can work together, and that's where we need your help and guidance on that, our proposed timelines, our commitment to sustainability, and then, of course, at the end, questions. So who are we? Okay, CTI Plus. So CTI is an acronym for coal to iron. And the coal that we're looking at, as you're very familiar with, is coal for steelmaking. It's a high-grade metallurgical, or another name for it is coking coal. We are a Canadian company. We're based in Calgary. Our key focus is met coal. And all of us at CTI do have experience in exploration and development in Western Canada and globally. And we're committed to sustainability and economic growth. And I'm located in BC, so we do have staff both in Alberta and BC. Okay, where is Rocky Creek? So we're basically halfway between Tumbler Ridge and Chetwynd, or 47 kilometers southwest of Chetwynd. And we're located obviously in the Peace River Regional District on Crown land. And for those of you who are familiar with the Brill Mine, Canuma's Brill Mine, we're 7 kilometers south of Brill. More direct details from Chetwynd, you go Highway 97 south, and then on the Sekunka Road, go 16.6 kilometers on the Sekunka Road, and then turn on to Blind Creek Road for 2.5 kilometers, then turn on to Lower Burt Road for 15.5 kilometers, and 10 kilometers on the West Jogue Road. And what's important to note here is that roads, there's already the infrastructure to get to the Rocky Creek proposed mine site. Okay, so the proposed project, it will be open pit, and we're looking at 2 blocks. We're looking at a northwest block and a southeast block. In the northwest block, we're looking at 6 open pits, and in the southeast block, 1 open pit. Our proposed rail loop would be in the Hasler Flat area, and if you're familiar with an Innergex project, it's basically adjacent to where Innergex is. We're looking at 14 years for mine operations or production, and we're looking at producing 3 million tons of raw coal per year, or after cleaning it, approximately 2 million tons of clean coal. And when we put this presentation together, we're looking at about 250 direct jobs, but since that time, it's actually increased to around 300 plus direct jobs. Of course, you know, as operating in any industry now, what's so important is our social commitment. So, of course, why we're meeting with you this morning, and we want to be a good neighbor. We want to be able to benefit the communities where we operate. We want to make sure that there is open and transparent communication. We have met with the Indigenous and other local communities, and we want to collaborate with the Indigenous communities where we operate. We want to be ethically responsible business and have ethically responsible business practices, and mitigate any potential impacts that this project could bring to the communities. Make sure that we have sustainable economic benefits. Of course, provide local employment opportunities and support local services, business, and infrastructure. Working together, okay, this is so important again, is So this project, we work with 7 First Nation communities and 2 Métis communities. The 7 First Nation communities, north of the Peace, we work with the Halfway River, Blueberry, and Doig. South of the Peace, we work with the Soto, McLeod Lake Indian Band, West Moberly First Nations. And closer to Dawson Creek, we're and to the east of you, we work with Horse Lake First Nation. Within the Métis bands that we work with Métis Nation BC, and again closer to Dawson Creek, we work with the Kelly Lake Métis Society. And of course, the local communities, no surprise, Fort St. John, Chetwynd, Tumber Ridge. We met with Mackenzie, yourselves, and then we also meet with the Hasler Flat residents, where the proposed loadout is what we're looking at. And we also work with the other stakeholders that have tenure in the area. Okay, proposed timelines. The Rocky Creek project was basically started in 2020, and then COVID put a pause on it. So it was really 2023 that we really got going on this project. We started the mine feasibility study, and we started the environmental baseline studies. In 2024, we submitted what's called the initial project description to the BC Environmental Assessment Office and to IAC, which is the Impact Assessment Agency Canada. And this project triggers both the provincial environmental assessment and the federal environmental assessment. This year, we're preparing to submit the detailed project description. So when we submitted the initial project description, we were now on the website on BCEAO and IAC, where there was public comments that came back on the project. Of those public comments, we had over 400 comments that came back from First Nations and communities. So we have been working in the last few months addressing the comments and the concerns, and then that information goes into the detailed project description, which we're hoping to submit this year, Q3 of 2025. And after that, then the BCEAO, they come back to us and with what's called the readiness decision, if what other information needs to be incorporated, or if they're happy with everything, they say, okay, we can go ahead into the environmental assessment. So that would take us into 2026, and we're hoping after we receive the decision from the BCEAO, and which is 2027, that we're hoping then we receive the environmental assessment certificate. So if all goes well, we're looking at 2028 to start construction, and then we'd also, after we receive the environmental assessment certificates, apply for the Mines Act permit. So that would be 2028, and then 2030, we're hoping to actually have production and start mining operations. Aggressive timeline, but doable. Our commitment to sustainability. Okay, there's a lot of information on the slide, but I think what's important to take from this slide is that we are working with other tenure holders. We're looking at where we can share infrastructure with the other coal companies that are operating in the area, because what we want to do is try to reduce our footprint, try to share, if it's the rail loadouts or roads and that, so as not to bring on any more disturbance of the area. And that's basically, so I know I went through that very quick, but we're happy to answer any questions.
And being here, so I'll open it up to council first for questions here. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, can you talk about your responsibilities at the end of the useful life of the mine? What happens from the point of view of restoration of the site? I know that in other countries, coal sites have been really beautifully restored to a usable habitat again. So what responsibilities are in place in BC that requires you to, at the end of the use of the mine, restore it to to something that's quite natural? Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a very good question and very important, of course. There are very, very strict regulations now for reclamation, restoration, closure, the mine. And in all my years of working in the mining industry, what I've noticed, one of the big changes is how the restoration reclamation has gone from the last chapter when we submit an application now to the very first part of the application. So it's extremely important. This is where we need the local guidance, the local residents' guidance too, for what you would like to see on foreclosure. And this topic has come up a lot in our discussions with the First Nations as well, and what plants that they would like to see to be planted. I'm told with open pit mines that mountain goats actually like to habitate in where an open pit mine or ex-open pit mine, which I found that very interesting. I did not know that. So we, over the course of the mine life, and from now, to 18, 20 years from now, we will be in discussion with the First Nations and with the local communities and Dawson Creek with how, any ideas, suggestions that you would like to see and how we close the mine. And I'm going to now pass on to Dr. Lee. And Dr. Lee's been working a lot with the closure and reclamation plan with our consultants.
Currently, we are not have a detailed closure plan yet. We will have those plans at the time to submit the application. We are working towards that. In the current state, what required for the information is called the conceptual closure plan. So we are working on that. Two-way street. From engineering standpoint, what's the best closer? And also from the community standpoint, and also from the First Nations, like Judy said, what they want to have this land restored. So have not that solid plan yet, but basically we will store the top soils and overburdens before construction. And after mining or during mining, if we do the progressive reclamation, all those exposed stocks, the waste rocks will be covered by overburden on top of that the soil to make that habitable for plants, for trees. So that's the basic. And on top of that, whether that land could be what type of trees and what type of vegetation is best to serve the community, and what kind of a landscape would it looks like, what would be community and First Nations wanted. That's also to be ongoing discussion. And ultimately, all those landscape and water after the closure would be meet regulatory requirements before discharging to before it could be naturally discharged to the receiving environment after the closure.
Use of land for mining or extraction, and so I just don't want it to be left to the public taxpayers to have to pay for that. That it's all built into the framework of the license, if you like, to do this. As I said, I've seen restoration work done in Europe, and it can be done very well. So I think this will happen here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to our delegation for coming to meet with us today. Just one or two questions, I guess. With respect to the 300 potential local employment opportunities, is that for the mine when it's operational, or does that include the construction phase?
Basically both, but mostly operational.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
said on construction phase, we'd be using a lot of the local contractors.
Okay, good to hear. And I guess my other question ties into that around the subject of, and I'm not sure how far along in the conversation, but around the subject of work camps. Is there an intention or discussion to inquire about that? I know it's a it's a touchy subject, so I just wanted to ascertain what your approach is and policy is with respect to transient workers, fly in, fly out. It's just something we occasionally have to deal with, and it's good to know what to expect.
Absolutely understand. I'm going to let Dr. Lee answer that question on, because we've been talking about it, but we haven't into the full discussion yet on camps and travel workers and that. But Dr. Lee, you go ahead.
Currently, we don't think we need a work camp for our workforce. And Kanuma is an example. And very likely we will follow Kanuma's example. So we will have some concentrated buses for the shifting changes in Chatwin and Thompson Reed. And we like to hire as many as possible of the local forces and the talents. So with you, people will drive from home to the concentrated Chatwin or Thompson Reed area, and we will have buses transport to people to the working site. Currently, there's no plan to build a work camp on the site.
All right, that's good to hear. That is our preference as well as a community in the region. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other questions, Councillor Apollonial?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to ask, thank you very much for the delegation. Of course, I just want to ask, how long will the project will last?
Approximately 16 to 18 years. And of course, it could last longer, as we start understanding more of the geology. But Dr. Lee, I'll let you expand on that as well, as Dr. Lee is our chief geologist. So.
Yeah, we currently have a 3 years construction estimate and 11 years mining and 3 years closer and reclamations, total about 17 years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Apollonial. Any other questions? I don't have any either. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time and to come in and just share the project with us and educate us on it. So thank you. And there's no ask to us currently. Like this was more just educational. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you very much. And it was nice meeting you all. And we appreciate you taking the time to come share with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We look forward to meeting you in person soon.
Yeah, us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, our next order of business is 2.5. We have Craig Noordmans, Indigenous Relations Advisor, Adeline Thames, Development Associate, and Cara Vickers, Senior Development Associate, Innergex Renewable Energy Incorporated, in attendance regarding the introduction to the Stewart Creek Wind Project. So, good morning. It's nice to see you in person, not on a screen this time.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, so I guess for those of you who don't know, we were presenting the Peace River Regional District last week. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it in person, so we're very excited to be in person today and meeting Mayor and Council and the lovely support staff as well that you have here today. Thanks for the introductions as well. So I'll get right into the project, but before I go through everything, I'd like to say that we recognize that we're developing this project on the Treaty 8 territory, and we're working with the nations to have their input and feedback throughout the project. So just to start off, who is Innergex? So we're a Canadian company based in Montreal, Quebec. We're a renewable energy company that does hydro, solar, wind, and battery energy storage. We have around 91 projects in operation currently and a lot under development, as you can see from our slides. I won't go too deep into each factor, but yeah, you can definitely take a look at that a bit later. But definitely a global player. We are in Canada, France, US, and Chile as of right now. So Indigenous partnerships, we have over 40 partnerships with Indigenous communities, much of them with equity ownership. As you can see there, some of our operating projects, even in BC, have over 50% or around roughly 50% equity on projects. I feel like that is actually in our nature to have equity in our projects with nations. One of our first agreements was around 50% equity with an Indigenous First Nation. So we were doing this like, say, 30 years ago. I know lots of other companies are just getting to that equity with nations, but that's something that's in our blood as a Canadian company that values our Indigenous partnerships. We also have one under construction that has 50% equity on the project, and then a lot in development. I'd like to highlight our three projects in BC, Nitty Mountain, K2, and the Stewart Creek project, that all have 51% equity with First Nations. And for Stewart Creek, the one we're here to chat about with you guys today, that one is in partnership with West Moberly First Nations. So before I get actually into the project schedule, I want to recognize that there's a lot of development in this region, and we want to be respectful of all the other development in the region and really hear from you guys as well on how we can engage with you on all the projects. I know we have the Stewart Creek project that has an electricity purchase agreement, but we have other projects in the region that we want to develop further, especially since there has been a call for power announced yesterday actually by BC Hydro. So we might be here again talking about some other projects that we hope to bid in the next round. But yeah, recognizing that we're not the only ones coming out today or even in the next few months about energy projects or even projects outside of the energy sector. So really appreciate your time to hear us and to start this relationship and get to know us and how we can be able to develop these projects respectfully and make sure that everyone's who resides in this area and are impacted by the projects voices are heard. But just to get into the schedule a bit, we got investigative license in 2008 and then 2022 to 2024. The 2008 one is in recognition to investigative license that we obtained from Zed, which is another energy company. And then the rest are the ones we applied for recently. So the Stewart Creek project is 3 investigative licenses. I'll talk a bit more about those and have a map in the next slide. But in terms of timeline, we were waiting for market since then. And then in 2024, there was a BC Hydro call for power, which we bid the project and were successful. And then we're awarded the electricity purchase agreement in December of 2024. And then going into 2025, we're just starting studies, as well as lots of engagement with tenure holders, stakeholders, the Indigenous communities, different interest groups as well in the region, such as like environmental groups. So we're doing a lot of engagement. As you can see here, it's around 4 years of just engagement, so we can really make sure we get time with individuals interested in the project and wanting to learn more. And then we have 2 years of construction in 2029 and 2030, and then it'll go into operations for 30 years, from 2030 to 2060. So project location is kind of in between actually Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, Chetwynd, Hudson Hope. So it's kind of in the middle of that, where we also have kind of Saturn gas plant as well in that region. So just to kind of orient you guys to where that is. Here's a zoomed in version. As you can see, there's Saturn gas plant there, and then Stewart Lake. We have the 3 investigative licenses. So that one in yellow was the Z one I was mentioning earlier. We call that the Septimus tenure. And then the top one is Stewart Creek North, and then the bottom polygon is Stewart Creek South. So that's roughly around 50 kilometers northwest of Dawson Creek. As I mentioned, we have 3 investigative licenses. With that, we are within electoral area E. That said, we are going to make sure we work to be compliant with any zoning and official community plans or land management plans as well. We do overlap with the agricultural land reserve. We recognize that and want to work to make sure that we're in harmony with the agricultural activities in the region. And then one thing too I want to note is this project, the area it will shrink as we get closer to construction and knowing exactly where we want the turbines, where we want the roads, and the collector systems, all that good stuff. So this is kind of the biggest the project will be, and from there, the area will shrink to be essentially right-of-ways around our infrastructure. Yeah. And then I also want to recognize that there's lots of development in the region, and we've heard that from nations. So we are trying to reutilize existing roads and existing areas that have already been developed in this area so that we can minimize net new impacts to the land and to make it so that that individuals can enjoy recreational activities in the region, like at Stewart Lake or even hunting and gathering in the region. So this is just a bit more. So as I recognized earlier, we're in the Treaty 8 territory. We're partnered with West Moberly First Nations, but we recognize there's lots of other nations in the region, and we will be consulting with them. It's around 35 turbines, which is around a 200 megawatt project. So in kind of more conceptual, that it powers around 50,000 BC households. There's just kind of a bit more information on the slide as well about the size of the turbines. And then I kind of mentioned earlier the project footprint will be the wind turbines, the access roads, collector systems, which essentially are the lines collecting all the power, and then we're also interconnect to the BC Hydro grid, which nice for our project. There is a BC Hydro line that goes right through, so we can connect, and the transmission line to that will be fairly small. So key activities this year, as I mentioned earlier, lots of engagement, really key in with the local governments, tenured interest, communities, other interest groups, First Nations, of course, and then starting our environmental studies as well and geotechnical work this year, so we can further optimize the design and layout and have something finalized there. And then, of course, welcoming everyone's feedback so we can make it the best project we can, as well as respecting the uses of the land. Here's a baseline schedule. I won't go through all of it, but essentially this summer we're going to start some studies, and then at the end of summer we're going to start geotechnical work, and it's going to be preliminary geotechnical work, so it's going to be kind of like I'd like to think of as geotechnical light, so we're not going to do the full program, but just getting into that. And then this is just kind of a nice graphic that shows how loud the turbines will be. So they're not going to be really loud at all compared to other things that you might hear. Like, for example, it's quieter than a car going down the street. And then in terms of afterlife of the project, once we go into decommissioning, there isn't much waste that this project produces, but we do want to recycle as much as we can. As you can see, that inverted triangle, that's kind of our hierarchy. So essentially we want to reduce, reuse, and recycle first. Those are our priorities, and then it'll be energy recovery and landfill as our last resort, but really focusing on those first three so that we minimize loads going to, say, the local landfill. That said, none of our wind projects that we currently have in operation have been into that. We have decommissioned yet, but we're really looking right now to find solutions so we can have the least amount of waste from the projects. And then, yeah, just local and regional business opportunities. There's a lot of different things that will come up, and as we get closer to construction, we'll make sure to highlight those and ensure local companies know so that they can get opportunities on the project. And we are, think during construction it's going to be around 150 jobs. And with that, thank you for your time, and open the floor for questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for attending and for the presentation. So I'll open it up to council first. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, thank you. I find these presentations interesting.
Thanks.
I have a number of questions. I'm using this as an opportunity to answer some questions I had about other projects. But just a matter of information, our friends at the Soto First Nation, they have a project that seems to be very close to this one. Has any concerns ever been expressed about the cumulative impact of having so much in one area and its general degradation for recreational and hunting uses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so cumulative impacts has actually been something that we've heard from not just SOTA, but other nations in the region, and we're working with them to best address how we can build this project, but also minimize any impacts to the land. We're also working with them on seeing what projects we can help sponsor or fund to help, to help bring back areas like wetlands to the region. So we're really kind of working with the nations directly to see what their concerns are and how we can address them and how we can support some of that environment. And that SOTO project is the Taylor project. That's not ours, but that one's on private land. It is a bit west of our project.
Okay.
And then we also have a project that Innergex is developing on private land. That's a little bit, southwest, I'd like to say, in the Dawson Bestport area that we're developing, but that one doesn't have an EPA yet. But hopefully we can potentially bid that in the next round.
Well, just another question, and don't get any wrong vibes for this. I'm all for renewable energy blended with our other forms of energy. And I'm pleased to see the First Nations having a stake in this. But without getting into specifics, what is the process used for a First Nation to achieve this 51%? Is it a financial investment, or is it through some other negotiations?
Yeah, so initially when we start this project, one of the first things that we do is do a consultative area database search, which identifies the nations that we need to consult with. From there, we send out letters, and then part of it is just getting their feedback on if they are even interested in equity on the project or not. And then I know in the last round, unfortunately, it was cramped for time, so lots of nations weren't able to commit to equity, but thankfully Westmo was. But that said, there will be a financial contribution from West Mobility at some point for the equity in their project, but usually we typically hold that till COD so that they can, there's other like federal and provincial funding that can carry the project till then, so that they can start contributing that equity when they have funds, and they get lots of time as well to essentially build those funds to go back towards the project, and then eventually they'll start earning profits from the project as it goes down its life cycle.
May I please supplement that?
Of course.
Can you just come up there, though, just so those that are listening can hear, so, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. Just to supplement a little bit, I think your question, Councillor, went towards how does the First Nation pay for it? Because these are very expensive projects.
How do they achieve 51%? I mean, I'm all for it. Don't get any wrong vibes here. But I'm just, yes, so how is it achieved? In a very general, I don't need any details.
To give you a general sense of where they're normally looking, the Canada Infrastructure Bank is where a lot of First Nations are looking towards gaining some interim financing for the projects. The projects have a return cycle, and they start making money, in other words, kind of later into the project after the construction is paid off. So we're dealing with timeframes that are like 5 and 10 years, and so it's kind of the interim funding that presents the most challenge, and we're pointing them towards CIB, and we're facilitating those conversations, and they're going very well.
Good, thank you. If I should just continue with a couple of where are the blades and turbines made?
So there is manufacturers in Europe and in Asia as well. We haven't identified what turbine we want yet, so we're still figuring out where we're going to get the manufacturer from.
Because one of the economic development things that was on the table in this region was and it was going to be located pretty close to Dawson Creek, was the capacity to produce these turbines locally, and that was it was nothing to do with the companies or regional or local governments. It was, I'm told, it wasn't a higher level of government didn't support it. But it just seems to me, with all this work going on, it'd be so nice if they could be manufactured somewhere in our region. One last question from some of the naysayers about wind energy. is the amount of concrete for the pads. I wonder what you can comment on. It's stated that the greenhouse gas emissions in the use of concrete negates for a number of years the greenhouse gas reduction. Of course, the question here is most of the hydro in BC is water powered at any rate. But how much concrete is required for each pad, and what is its greenhouse gas impact for the production of that concrete?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know if I actually know the answer to that, but definitely will look into that further. Very interesting question. I don't know if you guys know.
We'll come back to council with an answer on that. You know, the pads aren't that big,
Okay.
Councillor, and you know, we're not using that much concrete. And that argument, I would suggest the naysayers around wind farms might search for another argument to use.
Yeah. No, it's just a thought I'd ask whilst we have people here to say I'm not in any way against this project or any alternative energy projects. We need all the energy we can get. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to our delegation. So just, I guess, building on a point Councillor Parslow touched on in response to your kind of general inquiry about as an organization looking to work in the region and kind of what best practices we as municipal governments appreciate. I guess in my time involved in civics, both through the City Council and previously through the Chamber of Commerce, obviously there's always the question of local content, hiring local, training local, trying to retain as much talent and source things as locally as we obviously we are a region that is you know, our bread is buttered by resource development, and be it, you know, wind farms or whatever else. And there's always the frustration that you know, the tendency is to get things set up and then everything is run out of Calgary, everything is run out of Vancouver. There's a bunch of consultants that fly in, and that, whether it's the engineering capacity, whether it's the families buying houses, moving kids, that those benefits never accrue to the community, and you end up essentially, in the eyes of some people, a glorified work camp. So that's something we're always cognizant of when we have organizations moving into the region is, you know, we've been working alongside industry for generations. We're happy for the opportunities, but we want to see those just as, you know, our neighboring First Nations communities do when they work with industry. You want to see those opportunities materialize and result in long-term, a more dynamic, diverse economy and a better quality of life for the people that actually live here. So that's big picture. Another thing, I guess, is as this project takes shape and you begin to hire subcontractors, making sure that the values that you guys have at a high level filter down to those ones, whether it has to do with dust mitigation, whether it has to do with, because that's often what you find is the primary proponents of a project or the investors come in, and you've got a very refined set of principles and values and policies, but effectively as the knock along or as new organizations get brought in to help contract to those, the oversight falls off incrementally as the degrees of separation between your company and the people who are actually on the ground doing the work. So just something to be mindful of. That's something that has a tendency to, especially in the rural district where they've been dealing with industry for, once again, generations, that tends to turn people off, and that tends to be one of the distinctions between the companies that do well working alongside people in the region and the ones that have challenges. So, yeah, I guess those are the only feedback I want to give based on your presentation, but thank you both.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback as well. That's very valuable to us, and we'll definitely take that back. And one thing I want to highlight too is we do have a Doki wind farm that's actually west of the Sturt Creek Wind Project that's in operation. And then our operators are actually individuals who have grown up in the Peace region. Our manager, Walter McFarland, he's been in the community for 20 plus years. So we always try to secure local, not just during like the construction phase, but even after that into operation. And then as well, some of the studies we're doing actually this summer, we source local environment firms for it. But yeah, still, I see where we're going, because I've seen projects in the past too where there's like you said, there's people just from Calgary coming in and out, but we're going to really focus on developing that, and our team's already kind of looking at what are the opportunities that local companies can have, so we can get that early on in the stage and make sure that they know these opportunities coming up and highlight that to them earlier rather than later, so that they do get a good chance to get those projects, a set of firms coming from outside.
Thank you,
But yeah,
Councillor.
I appreciate that feedback.
Any other questions? Thank you. I don't really have any questions. I mean, I had the privilege of the presentation last week at the regional district. I just do want to thank you for coming out. I think, like I mentioned there, like this area is it's a big part of our community. It's close to our community for recreation, harvesting, animals, camping, fishing. So I think it's important to, that one, you came out here, but to consult with the residents in the area. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to be here today and for presenting to council. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your guys' time as well.
Yeah, you're welcome. So awesome. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, I'm going to vary the agenda to recess into closed. So resolution to move into the meeting of council closed to the public, agenda item 2.1, section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, and agenda item 6.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expiration of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And section 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and provincial governments. Move, can I get somebody to move that? Councillor Sudnick, second, Councillor Apollonio. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. All right, we'll take 5. We have council for Tuesday, May 6th, 2025 back to order. Next order of business is 2.6. We have Jaron Neufeld, Chartered Professional Accountant with Eclipse LLP in attendance regarding review of the 2024 audited financial statements. So welcome, Jaron. And the floor is all yours.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me back again this year. So on the screen there, you will see a copy of our management letter, which is addressed to mayor and council. And I'll just quickly run through the different sections of this report with you. So the first part there is basically just the minor housekeeping items that we have left to complete the audit, getting a signed proof set of the financial statements, as well as getting the signed T183 back in order to file the tax return for the corporation of the city of the Dawson Creek. Then we move down into our evaluation of internal controls. That section there is internal controls deficiencies that would have been at a sufficient level to be highlighted to mayor and council. And throughout the course of our audit this year, we noted no deficiencies that require reporting to mayor or council. Then we move into our significant accounting policies, which are all disclosed into note 2 of the financial statements, where it outlines any new accounting policies that were adopted and any impact of said financial or accounting principles. When we move into significant or unusual transactions, there was none this year. The accounting estimates paragraph does identify that management is responsible for the accounting estimates that have been included in the financial statements, and as auditors, we are responsible for reviewing those estimates to determine the reasonableness as they are in accordance with public sector accounting standards. Then we move into disagreements with management, of which we had none this year. Then we move into consultation with other accounts, such situations where we need to bring in a third party to give an opinion to us. There was none of that this year that was required as far as it was related to the City of Dawson Creek's audit. When we move into the next sections, there's significant issues discussed and then also difficulties encountered during the audit on the next page. And in both situations, there was none to identify to mayor and council in that regard. So that's a quick summary, I guess, of our management letter for this year. Any questions on that before we jump into the actual auditor's report?
Any questions? No.
No?
Not on that. I mean, I think I just want to recognize thank you for the time and for this report, but I just want to give a thank you to our team at the city, to Kevin, Melissa, and the team at the financial department. Yeah, it's very clear the job they do, and we're very grateful for them. So thank you, Melissa, and your team. So
yes. Definitely, I would echo that. You have a solid team here, very wonderful to deal with, always very timely as far as getting us information and ensuring that the audit goes as smoothly as possible. So from top to bottom, it's been fantastic dealing with them. So
excellent.
When we turn to page 2 of our audited financial statements, you will see our independent auditor's report. It is addressed to the mayor and council of the corporation of the City of Dawson Creek. It states that we've audited the financial statements of the corporation of the City of Dawson Creek, which comprise of the consolidated statement of financial position as at December 31st, 2024, and the statement of operations and changes in surplus, changes in net financial assets, and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the company financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city as of December 31st, 2024, and the results of its operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements that have been prepared in accordance with public sector accounting standards, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. As auditors, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or if in aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of a user taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of an audit that's been performed in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of a material misstatement of the financial statements. We obtain an understanding of the internal controls relevant to the audit in order to design our audit procedures. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used. We conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis, and we evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements. Finally, we communicate with those charged with governance, i.e. yourselves, regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and any significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal controls that we identify during our audits. So, in other words, another clean audit report this year. So, any questions?
Any questions, councillors? No.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you guys having me here again this year, and I just reiterate again, a lot of appreciation to Melissa and the whole team here for all their help. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jaron, to you and your team. And I think Melissa did want to add something, but yeah, we appreciate that as well. So thank you.
Of course.
I just wanted to thanks Jaron for the support this year in the audit, and it was a year we dug into a few things that maybe haven't been in the past, so I just appreciate the support by him and his staff and to our team to be able to get a clean audit again this year, but also take the extra time with us on a few things that were needed.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, Jaron. Thank you. All right. Next order of business is 2025 strategic priority chart. Any questions to Kevin on any of the strategic priorities or to anybody? No. All right, next late items. Do we have any late items? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship, and I apologize to staff and council for not getting this in on time this week, but I'd like to make a motion to accept late item regarding safety at public gatherings.
Okay. Can I get a second? Councillor Kemp? Any discussion? No, I'll call this to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. All right, next order of business is 5 new councillor business. So we'll deal with the late item here first. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to make a motion to instruct city staff to look into the cost and logistics to add proper concrete security barriers for any major public gatherings, i.e. car show, Christmas tree light up, just for public protection.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, a discussion?
So the reason I bring this forward is in light of recent incidents in Vancouver at the Lapu Lapu Festival and previous incidents in Toronto and other locations, that we just take the time to review the logistics and the cost of adding concrete barriers to protect our citizens and gathering communities in major public events to help protect them from a similar incident happening here as to what happened down there. Just like to see the cost and the logistics of it to be added into our policies in regards to hosting public events in the community.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? Councillor Apollonio?
Oh, okay.
Or was that for new councillor business?
Well, just part. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I will just jump in on that note. Thank you very much, Councillor Kyle, for doing that. Actually, I also that thought in my mind, of course, because it's really close to my heart. What happened down in Lapu Lapu Festival. So first of all, thank you very much for all the communities, especially the city of Dawson Creek, for honoring, of course, half mast the flags in honor of the fallen individuals and of course the families affected. Thank you very much, especially from the Filipino community here in Dawson Creek. The gestures, the love, the support, even though we are far from Vancouver, but as I said to Mayor Darcy or to anybody, it's really strike hard, especially if your community is affected. We saw this happening everywhere, but once it's happened in our community, like especially in the Filipino community, or it may be not, God forbid, not in Dawson Creek, it's different. It's different. So thank you very much for all the support, the condolences, and of course the kind words that we received all across the week when it happened up to now. Thank you very much. I support, of course, Councillor Kyle's motion that we don't want it to happen here in Dawson Creek. It's scary, and we don't know. And good thing that I saw in the news that the BC government, or maybe all Canada, should be looking into the spectrum of mental health issues, BC healthcare, and other things. So at least it will not happen again, because it's really sad. So thank you very much again, and of course part of my council report. Of course, the Filipino community has started the Spring Olympics for 2025. Thank you very much for the support from the community, especially from the Tim Hortons, the Smiley Cookie, and of course the kinsmen who went there just to give, cheers and cookies and Smiley Cookies for everyone, especially for the kids. And of course the presence there, and of course again giving the kind words, especially from the tragedy in Vancouver, that speaks volume to us, and we know that we are really a good place, good community. Even though we're not from here, we're working from across the Pacific, we find home here in Dawson Creek. Thank you very much. So of course, thank you, and it will last until May 18 for the championship. You are welcome again to come. And of course, I inform Mayor Darcy here that since I was in the Noordmans College welcoming the international students for the spring intake, so I asked permission from Mayor Dober, since I was asked during that time if I will welcome them. So I welcome them. So Noordmans College is thankful, and of course the international students who came, around 32, I think, this time, that dwindling in population, but they're thankful for the warm welcome from the city of Dawson Creek. That's all.
Well, I'd like to applaud Councillor MacDonald's initiative here. Can I see the motion on the screen, please? I think there's something I might like you to consider. Yeah. So I wholeheartedly support that, but I think I'd also like to see that we have a safety plan. The barriers might be part of a safety plan. It seems to me that we need to perhaps have the practice of, for each, I'm assuming outside events, that we have the practice of having a safety plan and what we might need to acquire to achieve that. So I support the intent, but I think it's a bigger question. It's around having a safety plan that we have for the various outdoor events. Just a suggestion, I can support this as it stands, but I think it's bigger than just, you've gone to a bit of a solution about a specific type of thing, but why not broaden it to a safety plan? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Parcel. Councillor Earl. Thank you, Worship. I too am happy to support this as it stands. I just have one or two thoughts. I mean, to Councillor Parslow's point, I know, we had our red binder when I worked at the event center that covered off a whole host of emergency situations that might occur in a public assembly venue, and I don't imagine a similar document, if we don't already have it, would be that much, deviate too much from that in principle. So I think that's a fairly reasonable next step. One thing I guess we should, obviously it's unfortunate that we live in a world where one troubled individual can undermine an entire community's sense of safety. So we have to take things like this into consideration in the first place. But I do, if I recall from the statements made by the provincial government, that they might also be working on some legislation around this. And I guess as we consider next steps on this, we don't do a bunch of redundant work that's inevitably going to be preempted by something from the provincial government. So it might be worth reaching out to a ministry to ensure that we should, it's once again goes back to like zoning, to come up with a bunch of zoning policies and then have the provincial government 6 months later decide, no, these are your new zoning policy, and not to be too technocratic on such a sensitive issue. But it does seem like there might be something coming from another level of government. So we want to make sure we're not going to end up in conflict with that and having to retroactively redo work our staff's already done. But no, I'm happy to explore this. And I do think, and I'm not sure, I guess, a question through you to staff, is there currently something analogous to the red binder we used to have for an emergency situation that might include something like this, an active shooter, the more malicious things that we don't like to consider, but is unfortunately a reality of the world we live in.
Yeah. So through your worship, we have a number of emergency response plans for various facilities, operations, and things like that, and through our safety program. So we do have that. I can't say with certainty whether we have anything that speaks specifically to outside outdoor events. I guess that question on the if we were to require a safety plan, is that something that we would require the proponents of the event to do, or that's something that the city is going to undertake as more of a generic and then impose on the individuals doing it. So those are things we'd have to.
I think,
determine.
I know with the community cleanup, for instance, you get the safety manual and the representative of the organization who's doing the garbage pickup has to sign off on it, that they've read it and consent to abide by it. I think that would probably be the most practical way to do it, but I mean, we're getting a little far down the road here, so I'll step away. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to comment that I would absolutely support an amendment to that broadens it to a safety plan, not just the safety barriers, that we get a proper safety plan for outdoor public events. Absolutely.
Tab, do we need a second for that, or can, just really want to change the, oh, what's that, sorry?
We have a mover and a seconder. If you want me to remove barriers and insert plan, and if that's okay with everyone, then we can do that.
Yeah.
Everybody's okay with that? Okay. All right, thank you, Councillor McDonald. And thank you for bringing this forward. Any other discussion on the motion? No? All right. I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Any other new councillor business? All right. Next order of business 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1 minutes of regular meeting of council held on April 22nd, 2025 for adoption. Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Apollonio. I'll call that to vote. The vote is closed. It's carried. Any business arising? All right, next 8 correspondence. We have no correspondence. Next 9 reports. 9.1, we have report number 25-065 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding engineering consultant services contract expiry. Councillor Parslow.
I'd like to move the recommendation that report 25-065 from the General Manager of Development Services re-engineering consultant services contract expiry be received. Further, that Council authorise an extension of the consulting services agreement with Urban Systems Limited for a 5-year term commencing December the 31st, 2025 and expiring December the 31st, 2030.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald. Discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Well, the reason I'm making this motion is we've had a long-standing relationship with this service. I'm not aware of any other service that would set up camp locally like the Urban System does. And it's I think we've had good service, as I've said before. And what concerns I've had is largely because of sometimes the parameters of the work that they've been asked to do, nothing to do with them. And so it's on that basis that they're well established, they give us good service, and I'm not aware of any alternative. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion? Councillor Earl.
Just, I guess, and I'll support this. I do agree with Councillor Parslow that Urban Systems, in my dealings with them, has been an impeccable organization to deal with, and that we don't have a local organization that could step into this role in this capacity. I guess one thing to note, similar to the situation we ended up with say, the SPCA, where you become reliant on a single source provider of this service. I mean, if we were to put this out to tender, how much staff time would it take getting another contractor up to speed on the various services that Urban Systems is? It's more, I guess, the concern I wanted to voice, not because I'm opposed to this, but because we do have to be mindful of the risks we are taking onto ourselves, is that there's a potential that we're becoming overly reliant on a single organization, that if something were to happen to this relationship or we had to, I think we'd be in a pretty difficult spot. So just, I guess, any concerns from staff on that, or how we mitigate that while continuing to work with people who are doing very good work for us.
So through your worship, you're correct. There is some risk, but on saying that, we do utilize other consultants for some projects. So although we have an agreement with Urban Systems, that agreement has some flexibility within it to allow us to use other consultants at times. So we have built, other relationships, but primarily Urban assists us with the majority of those services. If we were to change, certainly can do that. There would be a bit of unwinding of projects and whatnot. So, if you've got somebody involved with a multi-year project, they're likely going to have to stay on and complete that because, another firm isn't likely to want to come in and take it over, and it would make no sense from an efficiency standpoint. So there would be a transition, absolutely. But, that's what we do if it came to that. I think we just took the perspective that, and basically what I've heard from council is that they've committed to setting up an office. They've got local employees, and they've provided us good service, and they have a very deep resource pool from around the province, BC and Alberta, actually, that they can draw on. So we've been happy with the level of service. So.
Yeah, and I concur. I just, from an organizational standpoint, the risk of only having one supplier and being as integrated into the city's operations as they are is it's, and I'm, yeah.
If something happened tomorrow, there would be a transition.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
it's yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Thanks, Kevin. Any other discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9.2, we have report number 25-069 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2024 audited financial statements. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the report number 25-069 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2024 audited financial statements be received, and further, that the 2024 audited financial statements be accepted as presented.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I just reiterate your earlier comments, thanking staff for and Eclipse LLP for the work they put into preparing these. To, I guess, members of the public who are interested, I'd encourage you to give these a look. And what you'll likely see is, broadly speaking, an organization that continues to strengthen its position financially, and that will likely continue to have some challenging decisions in the upcoming years about revenues, constraining expenses, service levels, things of that nature. So nothing new, but certainly this year did pose some challenges that we hadn't experienced for some time in previous years. So, but thank you to everybody for putting this together. And yeah, it's an important piece of work as far as accountability goes, and ensuring the public that we are doing what we say we're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Other discussion? I just want to add a couple things and maybe highlight a few things in the report. I think there's a lot of, I did thank Melissa and the team earlier, and I think there's a lot of good things that the team at the city has done, but just a couple that I wanted to highlight. One, just our debt servicing. So in a year, we went from 21.5 million in debt to 17 million. So just a good job to council and the city team on that. But also that, this council, when we came in, there was a policy in place to borrow 5 million a year for infrastructure paving upgrades, that we've done that without borrowing the $5 million. So as much as we've decreased debt over this term, we've also went away from incurring any new debt. So I just think that's a win for the city. The other one is just our investment return, and I think that's directly to the financial team at the city. But and maybe I read this wrong, but I think our budgeted investment return was 2.5 million, but our actual for 2024 was 5.2 million. That is a significant win to our community on helping us, helping us not borrow, but also helping us minimize any increases that we have to give to our community because of inflation. So just a huge shout out to the team. And those were the two that I wanted to touch on. There's so many good things in there, but those were the two that I just felt like that it was important to point out. So thank you, Kevin, and your team and Melissa. Thank you for what you're doing. So it's appreciated. If there's no more discussion, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have 9.3, report number 25-070 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding actual to budget variance report for period ending March 31st, 2025. Councillor Parslow.
I move that the report number 25-070 from the CFO, the actual to budget variance report for period ending March 31st, 2025, be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion or questions?
Just a reminder, how do we use the revenue from raw water again? Do we have, is it just put into general water utility, or do we have things that we attach to that?
So through your worship, you're speaking not reclaimed water or raw water?
The reclaimed water.
Reclaimed water. Okay, so reclaimed water would be
Did
going...
I say raw? Sorry.
You said raw, yeah.
Reclaimed.
So reclaimed water would be going into the sewer utility. Yeah. Sewer utility goes in as revenue into the sewer utility.
Okay. Does it? The sewer utility. That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion? Oh, all right. I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. I hit the wrong button. Do I need to call that again?
We'll have to change the names on our little screens here for you.
Well, let me just try that. Did that work? It's carried. Okay. Am I confusing you, Councillor Parslow? I confused myself.
Yeah, you get me totally confused. We need to change the words into French or something. Maybe it'll help you. Or tree, or beaver.
Great. Next order of business 9.4, report number 25-073 from the Financial Service Manager regarding receivables report on March 31st, 2025. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 25-073 from the Financial Services Manager regarding receivables report March 31st, 2025 be received for information.
Thank you. Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor Apollonio. Discussion on receiving for information. All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have 9.5, report number 25-075 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding a revitalization tax exemption. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the recommendation report number 25-075 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding revitalization tax exemption, which provides council an update on the development of the draft tax exemption bylaw, be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Do we have a second? Councillor McDonald. Any discussion on receiving for information? We can discuss, okay. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, just ask some questions. I don't expect you have the answers, but maybe for when we deal with this matter. I don't understand how the RTE will assist with the issue of brownfields. Would you care to illuminate my mind about this, or take that as a question as notice that for our next meeting? I'd love to see ways of resolving that issue, but I don't understand how the RTE would impact that, and it's stated in the reports that it would.
Yeah, so through your worship, we're viewing the brownfields not only as maybe old gas stations, but also the lots that we have in the downtown that have where the old hotels were knocked down and stuff, and they have maybe foundations in place and things like that. So again, it's just, it's a possible incentive that could encourage someone to take on something that maybe, have on some challenges.
I see how you, thank you. Okay. A couple of other questions.
Yeah.
I don't expect you have the answers. I didn't warn you about them. I'm just interested why Terrace did what it did. You've given some changes to the amounts there. There must have been a reason. I'd like to know what the reason was and why Kitimat only incentivized commercial, not residential. Just background information.
Yeah, so through your worship, we'll see if we get that for next meeting. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Other discussion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. And it's carried. It's going to take a 5-minute break here. Business was 9.6. We had report number 25-076 from the Parks Arena and Aquatics Manager regarding RFQ 2025 11 truck purchase, parks and public works fleet. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, report number 25-076 from the Parks, Arenas, and Aquatics Manager regarding RFQ 2025-11 truck purchase for the Parks and Public Works fleet be received. Further, that council award RFQ 2025-11 to Bannister GM Dawson Creek in the amount of $375,516.50 plus GST.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9.7, we have report number 25-077 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding invitation to tender 2025-13-95th Avenue, 13th Street to 8th Street reconstruction summary. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the report number 25-077 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding invitation to tender 2025-13, 95th Avenue, 13th Street to 8th Street, reconstruction. Summary be received. Further, the council award the contract for ITT 2025-13, 95 Avenue, 13th Street to 8th Street reconstruction to Parallel Projects Incorporated for the tender price of $3,489,156.12, including a $200,000 contingency, but excluding GST.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, discussion. Councillor Parslow.
I'd be interested to learn how the amount of $200,000 for contingency was determined.
Go ahead, Devin.
So through your worship, we have contingencies in place when we do the estimates at the start of the year. We look at generally, depending on our level of comfort with how much information we have on the project when we do the estimating in August, depends on the contingency that we provide. For something that we have strong comfort with, it'd be about 10% or 15%, and something that's less, we'd have about 30%. Our contingencies that we provide at the start of the year, so in the fall of last year when we do the budgeting, usually include things like professional fees. They include things like obviously unknowns or any concerns that we have. Then when we get to the tendering process, we've got a little more defined contingency, and that's where we put that in place. So that $200,000 based on the tender price of $3.5 million is looking like 7% or so.
It's 7%?
Is that, I'm doing quick math in my head.
I was doing it in my head as well.
So it's 7%.
That's why I asked the question. What?
So we're feeling fairly, and that contingency is built into the contract. So that's to work within the contract. Again, the contractor is not owed that money. That's only if something comes up. We can still work within the bounds of the contract price. If we go outside the contract price, and we have to increase the contract price. That affects things like bid bonds, it affects insurance, even WorkSafe BC clearances, things like that. So that's why we include these contingencies in place.
The reason for asking that question, I guess, is somewhat overshadowed by all these uncertainties with tariffs and, the economy, et cetera, et cetera. And really, I guess, as you said, it's the amount of risk, right? But so 200,000 of 3.489, that's what I was dealing with. You used a different figure, 2 point something.
3.5.
3.5, is that what you said? Sorry,
yeah,
Mr.
Sorry.
So, and in your math, 200,000 of 3.5.
Now you put me on the spot.
No, it's just a general.
Yeah.
What is
5%? 5.7?
5%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought as well.
And it all comes down to, there is a certain level of, I would say, experience that comes down to the contingency. We obviously don't want to carry too much, or we price ourselves out of the project, right? And we don't want to do that, but we also need to carry enough that we're comfortable with the risks. So we create a risk register, we look at those risks, and we calculate what those risks will be based on impact versus possibility of coming true, and that's where we get these numbers from.
Is it fair for me to say that really in the last few years, our paving work has come pretty close to the actual cost, has come pretty close to budgeted cost?
To be fair, I've been doing paving since 2011, and we've always usually hit our paving pretty close, except for the last about 3-4 years. It's been really, really hard with the economy. For example, street lighting goes up about 20% every year. Really hard to manage, depending on the global economy, whether you're dealing with pipe and underground infrastructure. But our roads infrastructure estimates have always been very tight to the construction budgets. So I'm very happy with that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parcel. Any other discussion? I just had a comment. This is kind of related, but not. I mean, this is the end of that project up on the hill, completion of that. So I was just wondering, like, moving forward into next year, Kevin, do you need some, if we want to look at what our plans are moving forward as far as paving, is that something we need to give you some direction, or is that something we'll talk about at budget time, or just so I kind of understand?
So through your worship, there's currently our paving plan's driven on the pavement condition assessments and from that engineering perspective. That's what we will, bring forward's project based on that. I understand that you probably want to move away from the hill because there's been lots of, maybe, those big 95th, 96 are big projects there. I suspect there will be other projects identified in the community. That the other item that we have to manage is that we get X amount of money and it's like a jigsaw puzzle and you try and start to fit. So sometimes you have to move one way or the other because you only have $3 million left within your allotment, and you need to find a project that's going to fit that's still a priority and things. So that's part of the process. But if there's specific projects that council wants to talk about, then certainly bring it forward. We can then bring forward where it fits, from our perspective, from our pavement condition, and that is when we see it coming next, or whether it should be moved up or down or whatever.
Yeah, I was meaning more whenever this was 4 years ago, that was given direction to invest an extra $4 to $5 million a year into this project. So meaning more next year, if you don't have that direction when you're doing your plans, you're only going to go off of what the $4 million budget is.
Yeah.
But if council, did want to learn more about it or had a desire to, invest more money over the next, year or 5 years, just how do we have that conversation? Because I feel like if we had it in fall at budget time, that might be too late if council had a desire to invest more. So that's what I'm asking is just what you would need from us if we wanted to see that, I guess, if council
Your
did.
worship, and we'd probably like to know that sooner than later, whether council has an intention of moving that, and that's going to, obviously involve Melissa, and from a financial perspective of how we move that forward. We can certainly give council an idea of if we don't, how much work, we can do within the year with the pre-existing budget as opposed to the additional monies that we have these last few years, right? With costs going up, our buying power is going down. And so it starts to shrink how much you can do. So it's going to be a challenge without a doubt.
Okay, so and I'm only speaking for myself. I don't know if council's on board with that too, but for myself, I would like to see that, to understand what I think the last couple of years that there's been a lot done in the community and it's been great to see, but I'd like to understand more what that looks like for the next
So
year.
what we can do is we could bring back a report, in the next month or two that would basically show that without the additional funding, these would be our priorities for 2026.
Okay.
If we had additional funding, this is how much more we could do, and this is what they would be. And that'll give you a bit of a visual of where that's at, and then you can discuss whether, that's something you want to pursue.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
Just to your worship, that it definitely is something that we can discuss, and to point out that it was, when there was the discussion of the 5-year financial plan in the March 24th meeting, it definitely was listed as an assumption that the additional 5 million annual paving investment would conclude in 2025. And I mean, it was an assumption that was directed, and so that's what the plan has been based on, but we can definitely bring back a report on what that means.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess if that's something council wanted, do you want a motion for that? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. So, yeah, I'll make the motion that staff bring us back a report on future paving project estimates with and without an additional $5 million investment by the city.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. We do have a motion on the floor, so I think you got that one. We'll deal with this one first, and then we'll go back to that one. No, that's fine. Any other discussion on the motion that's on the floor? I had one other comment on it. I just, on the 3 tenders, just the price difference. So kind of scary in a sense, the price difference. And is that related to what's going on in the North America market right now with tariffs and stuff, do you think? Or is that, some maybe being cautious of that?
Yeah. It's hard to say, Your Worship. The only thing that I could point to is that Parallel Projects has done a number of projects.
Yeah.
And so they have that history, and the others maybe don't. And so they're Parallel's utilizing that experience to form their numbers. That's the only speculation that.
The other companies on here, they haven't tendered before?
Infracon has done work, but not road work.
Oh, okay.
And Trihon has not.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, any other discussion? No. Devin, was there anything that you wanted to add? I know you did have your mic on there, and I...
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to mention that our road condition assessment is actually out for tender right now. It closes May 13th. That will help, along with the Transportation Master Plan, which you saw a draft for last month. That'll help inform our next 5 years, because our last condition assessment, I think, was 2015. So an updated condition assessment will help us point. Obviously, we take your political will as well, and the interests of council into effect with all the rest of the condition-based recommendations that we provide to council.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Devin. All right, any other discussion on this? No? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Now we'll deal with Councillor McDonald's motion that was up. Would somebody like to second that? Councillor Sudnick? Do you need it repeated, Taber, Janice, or did you? Okay, could you go ahead, Councillor McDonald? You did such a wonderful job with it last time. I was wondering if you could repeat that.
It'd be completely different now. I'd like to move that council direct staff to bring us back a report outlining our pavement plan for the next 5 years with and without additional funds given through the city.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. And seconded by Councillor Sudnick. The council direct staff to report includes option for. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll support this. I'm always happy to talk with staff and my colleagues about future plans around capital investment and paving. I'm just wondering, with respect to looking at what it means with an additional 5 million versus not, what we're hoping that insight will, I mean, realistically, we've already, I think, opted as a council that borrowing moving forward probably isn't going to be, it makes more sense over the long term to just pay down the debt and use the lower debt servicing cost to put that into capital and reserves. So are we talking about, it, depending on what the report says, we're going to consider further drawing down reserves? Are we talking about, I mean, I don't get a sense that there's, given the way costs are going and given the way our finances are challenged, that there's a great appetite to increase a ton of, so are we just talking about, I mean, I'd like to know what the next 5 years looks like, but I don't know why we're asking for what it looks like with or without an additional 5. I mean, I'd be happy to see a triage list of priorities and what the potential cost is, but.
I guess what I understand it to be is a visual that shows, because there is going to be a marked difference from what we have been doing and what we will be doing if we don't have the additional funding. And it's just that visual so council can see it, and then ultimately you guys will have to make that decision on whether what that looks like and how you move forward, if at all. But that, whether we borrow or take, that's a subsequent discussion if council decides to change.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see it, but that's where my mind goes is, I mean, the priorities are the priorities, and I guess, yes, we've all kind of grown accustomed to doing a lot of road work in the summer of the last 4 years, and it'll be, I guess, striking to see what the difference is absent that additional 5 million.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, it would be important to make sure that not only council but the public have a bit of a, or warmed up to the idea, because I think, there is that expectation, and there would be the questions of, well, wait a minute, you mean that's it? That's all. So, have the discussion now, and then.
And just going back to, I guess, for my own information, what the mayor highlighted earlier as the kind of standard number being around 4 or 5 million prior to that additional 5 million, and that's what we'll be kind of defaulting back to.
Yeah, that in that area.
So
that's
half as much as
was.
we were doing before.
Pretty much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Just to note that the motion doesn't state a dollar figure either. It just says without the additional funding. But Councillor Parslow?
I'm having problems with this motion because unless we know our total budget situation, how will we know whether to give a nod to another, I'm only using this figure, I know there's no set figure, to another 5 million without knowing what the other needs are in the systems? I mean, we know our budget's getting under increasing pressure, but we don't have any. When you go to the work of this report, and I'll be saying, so how is this, if we give $5 million extra, what are its implications on all these other things that are going on? And I don't see, would we be, in my view, moving forward, doing a small component of the budget without knowing the total picture is not what I would want to do. I would think we do have a conditions report coming. I can see having a healthy discussion about that, but I'm also thinking about do we need a report when we're having a conditions report, and shouldn't the discussion be just on that conditions report and what it would take to maintain or improve? Why would we need another report? And if we get this report, we won't have any information to make informed decisions around budget matters. So I appreciate the intent, but I don't think I can support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. I did make that 5 million comment tab just because, referring to Councillor Earl mentioned it, but I don't think Councillor McDonald did speak to it in the motion, but it wasn't that it was missed, so. But,
I thought I heard.
yeah, no, that's fine. Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, just to Councillor Parslow, Councillor Earl's comments, I think this is more just, for me, information. More information emboldens us to make motions in the future. You know, a conditions report is good, but without a little bit more professional insight from, you know, our staff about just what we can afford additionally, you know, not just by conditions, by cost and logistically, if we have a paving crew on, say, 15th, and if we just move them over to 17th quickly to do another small job, what we can achieve. That's more what I'm looking for, just more information like that. And then, not necessarily to borrow, but we have a very successful financial department that is investing very well for us right now. And if we do have another year of an extra $3 million in returns on our investment, is that a way we will want to go in the future to invest that $3 million? We take that money and invest it into paving before. I mean, inflation's growing every year. It's not going to suddenly stop and go the other way. If we have the opportunity to reinvest a $3 million windfall quickly to help our roads for 20 years, I think it's, you know, good information for us to have when we're making those choices.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor McDonald. I agree to a lot of what was said, and I think, you know, my thoughts on this is just, you know, we've invested an extra $5 million in the last 4 years, and I've heard numerous times that, you know, it would take 20 years to catch our roads back up. Like and I think it's our due diligence to get the work in front of us and understand what it looks like for the next year, and that's why I just brought it up about that conversation. I think the assessment, like the road assessment that's coming, is critical, but the question was more asked, does that give you enough time to plan for 2026? And that's really where the motion came from, is just that you said you didn't figure it did, so the more notice the better. So if that was the direction, so yeah, so thank you. All right, any other discussion? No, I'll call this motion to vote. Everybody's clear on the motion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. One opposed. Councillor Parslow. Next, we have 9.8, report number 25-063 from the General Manager of Operations regarding raw water service connection request 4259208 Road. Councillor Parslow.
So this, I'm going to move the recommendation as presented, but I would want us to also somehow reflect the fact that we need to review this whole raw water business. So I move the recommendation that report number 25-063 from the General Manager of Operations, the raw water service connection request 4259208 Road be received. Further, the Council approve the request from Kyle and Michelle Chaffee for a raw water service connection to be permitted at the property located at 4259208 Road. Further, the city enter into a raw water agreement with the Chaffees.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Do I have a second? Councillor Apollonio? Discussion?
I will be presenting another separate motion that covers the general raw water agreement modifications that might be needed, given if we're going to accept continuing these things with all the legal concerns we have and how we can safeguard ourselves.
Okay.
If you know my gist.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried.
Are you making that in closed?
We'll be a little careful with your...
Good thing.
Okay, thank you.
So if I can add it to that closed agenda.
That's correct, Kevin.
Procedurally.
We should talk about...
Yeah, through your worship. we can deal with that in under that item enclosed.
Okay, thank you. All right, next order business, 10 bylaws. 10.1, we have report number 25-079 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding Board of Variance Bylaw number 4602, 2025 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 25-079 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding Board of Variance Bylaw number 4602, 2025 be received. Further, that Board of Variance Bylaw number 4602, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? No? Councillor Earl? Any discussion?
No.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll call this
Sorry.
motion to vote. No. Vote is closed. It's carried. All right, next, 10.2, report number 25-078 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4604, 2025 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Parslow.
I move that report number 24-078 from the Deputy Corporate Officer re fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4604, 2025 be received. Further, the Council adopt fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4604, 2025, which amends the following fee schedule. Schedule B, Airport, the addition of a mobile fuel cart fee. Schedule C, Animal, updates to licensing fees with respect to cats. Schedule H, Community Services, facility rental fee adjustments and additions.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald, any discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
It is straight.
All right, I'll call this motion to vote. We got one more to vote, please. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next, we have 10.3, report number 25-068 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding tax rates bylaw number 4606, 2025 for consideration of adoption. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the report number 25-068 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding tax rates bylaw number 4606, 2025 be received. Further, that tax rate bylaw number 4606, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, discussion? Oh, all right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. Next order business, 11, Mayor's business, 11.1, Mayor's updates. So first, I just wanted to touch on the Northern Lights College Rodeo send-off. So I attended this within a few weeks ago. Just an amazing event. Great to see the riders, the awards that they've been winning, like how well recognized they are, and in the rodeo circuit, really, and how well they've done. A huge shout out to the Northern Lights College for the successes of it, but just the support of our youth and what they do to better our youth and really the region and the community. There's with the rodeo on the college rodeo coming on board, it's just been a huge win for the region, and it attracts students from across, all over, really. So it just a huge thing to see, and it was a great event to be part of. So just wanted to give a shout out to all them. Second, I attended the BC Wildlife Federation, had their conference that we supported in Dawson Creek. First time they've been here in years, but it was just a wonderful event to speak at. I was there in the morning. There had to be 150 to 200 delegates from not from this area, from all over Western, from BC, really. So it was just great to be part of. So just a thank you to them. A huge thank you to the organizers that put it on and hosted everybody here. It's I know it took a lot of effort and work from them. So just a huge shout out to them and for everybody that was here. Did a Grand Prairie Arts Center tour last week. We just went to Grand Prairie and checked out their facilities. So it was amazing just to see what they offer. I'm not really, the arts department, it's never been one that, I have interest in it, but never spent a lot of time in it. But I just really wanted to thank Councillor Parslow for organizing it. There was a few of us that went, but to have you as our tour guide and to share your passion and education, it was really amazing. So I just appreciated you taking the time to go out of your way to educate us on it, but really just to share your love for it. It was very appreciative. All the facilities that we went to, and thank you to all those teams as well. But really, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time. It was very educational, so thank you. Young Life had a banquet last week. I actually wasn't able to attend just because of some things going on in my life, but I just wanted to give a shout out to them as well. For that, I know it was successful and it met their goals for the funding that they were looking for it, and a huge shout out to the youth of that organization as well. There's a young baker that does all the desserts for it. I think she's 14 years old. So it's pretty impressive, the whole organization and what it does, but just really that fundraiser was brought on by the youth. So it was just amazing to hear the successes of it and see the pictures from it. And it was great. So next, the Fresh Market grand opening was, I believe, last Thursday. I think that was the 6th week that it's been going, but they had their grand opening. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Jocelyn and Natasha for organizing, to Ed Ma as well for having it in his facility. But I did bring it up before at council, just how amazing it is to see so much traffic in our downtown area from it. But it was amazing. There had to be 100 people there right at the opening. It was significant, but also, just in the world we live in today, there's a lot more financial pressures we're facing, and you're seeing a lot more people thinking outside the box and how to help support their families and things. So you're seeing a lot more of of industry going this way, and of individuals and families. So to see all the support families that were down there and the businesses that were, it was very amazing. It was full. There was probably, I don't know, I can't even guess, but 25 plus vendors down there, and from everything that you could imagine. And it looked like it was fairly successful, and it's been busy. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them, and just such a great addition to our downtown and to our community. So South Peace Health Expo. It was phenomenal, actually. It was hosted at the college last week, and I've spent a lot of time with a lot of the health care providers in the South Peace. Councillor Sudnick has as well, and he can probably share this and speak to it, but just to see everybody in a room together, and how much passion and pride they bring to increase the really the healthcare that is delivered in the South Peace and in the whole Peace country. It's very much not just about the South Peace, but it was just phenomenal to see everybody that was down there. There was from the college to doctors to South Peace Division of Family Practice to organizations that provide healthcare in the South Peace. It was just phenomenal to be part of, and I just spent a bit of time there, and I was really just grateful. Really, I guess if I had to sum it up in a word, it would be that I was grateful for all of them, and it was well attended. I didn't talk to them afterwards about their expectation of attendance, but I mean, on the couple hours I was there was a steady stream of residents and going through there, and it felt very well attended, and I felt like they felt the love as well. So it was just, it was good. So thank you to them for their efforts and putting it on for our region. Trade speaker, I was just on, been a little bit exposed a bit to some of the stuff that's been going on out in Alberta the last couple months, with whether it was PRETA or the Growing the North conference. There's been multiple things. So I had there was a trade speaker put on for Wonder Valley through the Alberta government. So we did reach out just to see if I could attend it, and they welcomed me. So, and they've also been sending me more dialogue, so I can pass some of that on to council as well. But it was just good to listen to what their plans are on Wonder Valley, and there was a lot of dialogue and a lot of information to share all at once here. But I can share some of that through what was shared through the presentation with me, if there's interest. But yeah, I think it's another thing as it progresses, and if it moves forward, will be substantial for our region, for the whole Peace Country. So, and I thought a big part of the Trade Valley was about how they can use natural resources to actually push forward in a different direction. So there's a lot of innovative things about it, and they definitely have a support of their area in the Alberta government, it felt like. So it was good to see. Day of mourning, we did have that here. I wanted to thank council for attending, but also Councillor McDonald. I couldn't attend last minute just for some family things, so I just wanted to thank you for offering to speak at it. And I know you wrecked the podium, and no.
I was sabotaged. I don't know.
But no, I just appreciate it, and just thank you, and thanks to council for being part of that as well, and obviously to the city team. We spoke to that last council meeting. Smile Cookie Challenge, another one that I didn't get to attend at council, but I heard council won, so I'm glad that continued. There was. Obviously last week was Smile Cookie Week, so I wanted to give a shout out to Kyle with his other hat, and to Jillian and the team at Tim Hortons for what they do to give back to the community. The city, we partaked in some of it and delivered some Smile Cookies, and just the team at Tim Hortons it's just a breath of fresh air and just phenomenal to see how amazing they are and give back. So thank you, you and your family. And the team. So, at a meeting with Northern Innovation Network last week, something that actually MLA Neufeld connected me with. So I have some pamphlets on it that I'll share with council actually, but they're very similar, and I don't know if I should, maybe an easy way to explain it, but similar I get to like a Community Futures, but just around tech-based initiatives. So they're it's very interesting what they offer, and it's always been in Prince George. I shouldn't say always been, but I think it's been the last 8 or 9 years. It's been an initiative of Northern BC, Prince George area, and that is kind of as north as it went. So they've got now a rep in Northeast British Columbia and Northwest British Columbia. So I met with him, and this is something that they're moving forward with, some partnership with NDIT in the province as well. So it's very interesting. They're doing like a Northern Angel Summit, which is similar to like those that know like Shark Tank, but it's going to be hosted in Prince George. So that's why they kind of met with me, is they're just trying to get more interest from Northeast and Northwestern regions of British Columbia. So it was great. They support a local business already up here in the tech field that is starting off and growing. One of our neighbors. So it was just great to see. And I got the pamphlets, so I'll share them with all of you. But it was really just about getting it out and helping them kind of expand and grow. And so it was great. Meeting with Minister of Water, Land. I had a meeting. This was a couple. I've had a couple actually, but this was a meeting with the Chief of Staff, with the Minister and their office, just around the water line, and it was just another meeting about letting them know where we're at with our water concerns and moving forward with the water line. So there'll be more to come with that in future. So next, the moose hide campaign. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on the moose hide campaign. So this is on May 15th, but mostly year round and up here, but it is nationally recognized on May 15th. So the Moose Hide campaign is a grassroots movement of Indigenous and non-Indigenous men and boys who are standing up against violence towards women and children. Wearing this moose hide signifies your commitment to honor, respect, and protect the women and children in your life, and to work together with other men and boys to end violence against women and children. Help spread the Moose Hide campaign by sharing with your family, communities, and organizations. So just wanted to touch on that. I also added a couple other things. I wanted to touch on the Red Dress Day, which is actually today. So Red Dress Day is held every May 5th as a national day of remembrance and activism. It honors the lives of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirited people. It began in 2010 as a project by Métis artist Jamie Black to bring attention to the issue. The empty red dress symbolizes the high rate of violence that Indigenous women experience. Recognizing Red Dress Day is a way to honor the lives lost, to demonstrate support as an ally for those affected, and to show commitment to finding justice for those missing and murdered. And then just on ending, I am wearing a yellow shirt today. Today is actually National Wishbone Day, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Hayden, who attended our last council meeting that we did a proclamation for Wishbone Day. He's just a true inspiration to myself and council, just for one, what he's been through, but just to really be a spokesperson for Wishbone Day and what him and his family have done. So I just wanted to recognize that as well, as it's today. So any questions on any of those updates? No? All right. Oh, Councillor Parslow.
No questions, but just as feedback, I wasn't in attendance at the gala supper for the BC Wildlife Federation, but colleagues there said a consistent theme. Every speaker was amazed by this community, by the facilities, the hospitality. They just spoke so glowingly about the staff at the Ovintiv Centre, what was provided, how it was, about the gun club facilities. So it was really positive PR about that. And just a personal comment about the Art Centre tour. It was a pleasure to take the team, members of the team, and I just think it's an attribute of the existing council and staff that people will step out of their comfort zone and go and have a look at something different. So I just want you to know that I appreciate this culture. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Other questions? Oh, Councillor Apollonio?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just congratulations to the city for the successful nitty-gritty dirt band last weekend. Yeah, it was nice to see that the Ovintiv Event Center was packed totally. So yeah, congratulations to the events and of course to the Ovintiv and of course to the city.
Thank you, Councillor Apollonio. I'm going to take a 2-minute break. Meeting for Tuesday, May 6, 2025 to order. Our next order of business was 11.2, memo for myself on economic development function. Council feels that some of this item deals with sensitive information regarding labor relations, therefore should be discussed in closed meeting. So I'm going to recess the open meeting to move into the closed meeting for the purpose of discussing that item under section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, be discussed. So I need a motion. Councillor Sudnick, second Councillor McDonald. Call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Okay, we'll be as quick as we can and get into closed. May 6, 2025, back to order. I'm just going to vary the agenda and deal with 11.3. So 11.3 is memo from myself, Mayor Dober, regarding reimbursement of expense policy. Thanks, Councillor Earl.
I will do it. I'll move the proposed recommendation that council direct staff to review the proposed amendments to the reimbursement of expenses policy to reflect current meal costs and inflationary trends and to present the proposed amendments for council's consideration at a future meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion?
So I was on council in 2018 when we reduced the per diem from $125 to $75. At that time, it was a time of budget reductions, and while this wasn't going to save the taxpayers of Dawson Creek a great deal of money over the long term, it was felt that we should be seen as councillors to share that pain. We didn't put any kind of annual CPI escalator in it, as we've subsequently done with other fees and things we've changed. So it's maybe appropriate to have this conversation. I not the most traveled councillor on here. I usually make it to one conference a year, so it's not something I've had to contend with a great deal. But I'm happy to hear feedback from my council at the time. I know Mayor Bumstead, who was in his capacity as the economic development officer, doing a great, a lot more travel than the rest of council, did highlight that $75 to cover per diem expenses in downtown Calgary didn't actually get you very far for a day. So it's maybe a good time to revisit this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? No? All right. I'd like to call this motion to vote.
Before Charlie sits down.
Two more, not Councillor Parslow, though he wasn't in for it.
No.
Oh, can you?
You're discussing the expense thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Oh, you are, okay. Okay,
Then we'll let you vote.
then you can vote. Okay. Vote is closed and it's carried.
I've heard of there's a phenomenon going around democracies, it's called autocracy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Darcy, for that.
Yeah. Wasn't me. All right, next we'll go back to 11.2, memo from Mayor Dober regarding economic development function. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll read the recommendation that council directs staff to investigate the feasibility of establishing a dedicated economic development officer position, including consideration of staffing costs, operational budget requirements, and potential external funding opportunities. Further, that staff bring back the report to council for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Kempf. Second, Councillor McDonald. I guess I'll just speak a little bit to this one, just bringing it forward. It was just, I just wanted to direct the city team just to look into like what it would look like to have an economic development officer or division of the city. I feel like, not just my role or our role as a council is to look after the best interests of our community, and I think we do that. And this is just another area that I feel like sometimes we could be missing some opportunity in the economic development end, and just feel like it's worth looking at. When you look in the region, to our neighbors, all of our neighbors in the whole region have economic development officers and divisions. They're all growing. It kind of just goes hand in hand to me when I see things, and there's a lot of great things that we're doing, and this isn't talking bad about the city or anything. I just think if there's opportunities to grow our community or look at enhancing our communities, that's what we're here for, is to look at those and to get, this isn't committing to anything, it's just really committing to, if approved, to having Kevin and the team look into what that means for us and how that could look at. So that's kind of why I brought this forward, and lots more to it, but I can get into that later. So, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess as I'm fine to see a report back from staff. I do, and I've probably expressed before, I guess where my hesitation lies in that this job, as I've seen it practiced, this particular position in various communities can be kind of nebulous and almost like, an ink blot where it just becomes whatever the people in the position or want to see in that job. And there's not a lot of meat on it with respect to what are their deliverables, what metrics do you use to gauge success, how do you, and I mean, that's my concern. Like, I understand in principle, and I think as Councillor McDonald cited, it's essentially a salesman for the community that acts in collaboration with the other departments to effectively be that point of contact for businesses and people who are interested in investing in the community and helping guide them through the process and make that decision. And I am sympathetic to the idea that we could use some more of that, right? It's nice to have it not just lie with you or be off of the side of somebody else's desk. I just have some concerns about what exactly that work entails and how, because in other communities it's sometimes more of a tourism-based function. In some communities it might just be strictly coordinating with development. In some, what does that look like for Dawson Creek? And I'll leave it at that. But that's I'm happy to see a report back. But my hope is that we could, and hopefully, as we prepare the report, talk to our colleagues throughout the region and ascertain how they maybe find value in it, so that we're not trying to justify the added expense to taxpayers if we do go ahead with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, it would be a miracle if I was ever support an economic development officer for this town. I've observed economic development officers at a distance, and I just can't justify spending dollars on all the travel they seem to engage in and their high salaries. We're just adding expense, and with no proven gains whatsoever. I challenge anyone here to show me a big business that's moved to Dawson Creek that would have required the help of an economic development officer. They have their own teams, their own staff, they do their own research. We should be prepared through vacant lots, service lots, good information, a ready quick approval process for people who are interested in coming here. But I just don't see how we can afford it. But I'm not going to oppose this motion because that would be hypocritical of me from the point of view of exploring things and because of my respect for this council and mayor. So I will support this motion, but I would like to see the costs associated with such a position, their travel costs. I can tell you the travel costs of some economic development officers that makes the mayor's travel costs minute. I won't talk about the past economic development officer, a fine person, a great cheerleader for this community, but examination of what that person did would just illustrate how it becomes a catch-all from every little thing under the sun that councils might want to do and very little to do with economic development. So I'm going to support this because I'm not going to be silly and say no, but it would be a miracle for me to support it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Councillor.
miracles do happen. I'm a believer in miracles.
Thank you, Councillor Parcel. Oh, was that a challenge? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, just to go back to what we were saying, right? I think right now to expect proper focus on an economic development role off the corner of your desk, off the corner of Kevin's desk, or even off the corner of our communication manager's desk is a disservice to the three of you. I think, I do hit 80% of the conferences that we are able to go to. I can tell you that we are the only community that I know of that doesn't have an economic development officer. I question that, why we wouldn't when everybody else does. I think there is a definite need in the community to have that person in a salesman role going out there and selling us to potential investors, whether they're outside investors in Calgary, Vancouver, wherever, or they're just even our local investors, of somebody that's going out there communicating with them their needs, their desires, how we can help them, how we can facilitate bringing them to our community. I understand the position of, major commercial developments like a Walmart or Lordco or those, they have their own ECDev teams that go out there and find those communities, but there still needs to be a lead from the community that'll work with them, right? They need information. We need to have somebody that'll communicate information to them in a proper economic way. To the point of, we've seen neighbors' economic development be strictly tourism. That's their economic driver. One of Tumblr's biggest economic drivers is tourism. So it only makes sense that their economic development officer would concentrate on tourism because that is their economy. So I think no matter what community you're in, if you have a good economic development officer, they will find the driver in your community to help build your community. I totally support this motion and look very forward to seeing what staff brings back for an option for us.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Any other discussion? Oh, Councillor Apollonio?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm also in support of a possible economic development officer. Maybe additional from the distinguished councillors. Maybe I could ask from the other table, like from CEO Kevin, maybe just to balance the costs and what will the economic development officer will bring, like business or income. So at least just to offset the expenses, because I think one consideration right now is the expense again for another officer. So at least if there's a comparison with other committees with regards to the economy or maybe businesses brought by such economic development officers in other regions, at least we have a comparison.
Yeah, through your worship, I think part of putting the report together will be talking to other communities and seeing how every community will be different in their successes, but I think it will be able to give you an idea of if there is any measurable returns on that investment. Again, I think it will vary. I also think that for the little bit I know about it, it's likely it's a long game. It's not something that you get one today and next week all of a sudden you've got people knocking down your door. I think it takes time, but it's something that it's a long-term solution, and it needs that stability and continuity to be successful over the long term. But again, those are things we'll try and canvass in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Apollonio. Thanks, Kevin. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. All right, next order of business 11.4, the delegation request from the Dawson Creek Triathlon Association. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I move that we grant the triathlon's request.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor McDonald. Is that enough for you, Janice? I know there's quite a bit in the request, but that's enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
It is all stuff we've done in prior years, so it's familiar. Is there anything more explicit you'd prefer, or does that work for you?
Okay, perfect. All right, any discussion? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next order of business 12, Chief Administrative Officer operational updates.
Thank you, Worship. Just going to pull up the latest water levels at the weir, just because it's picture is always worth so much more. This tab's going to do that.
So you added to your report now.
There we go. So, yeah,
Why
zoom in
not?
a little bit. There we go.
Already had cataract surgery.
2025.
So you've got 22, 23, 24, 25. 25's the black line. Obviously 24, the yellow is where you can see that we had obviously last winter where things froze off. Then we had Frechette, and Frechette was very flat compared to what we'd seen in years previous. And then you'll see late in 24 it dropped off. Then we did the release at Bear Hole Lake, which brought it up and kept us flat throughout the winter. And then back to black, which is 25. And so we held pretty steady. We've seen a little bump, more than 24, but still very low compared to what you'd see as a typical Frechette. The other thing of note is that we see these Frechettes bumping back a little bit earlier than we have seen in previous years, and that is something that's been highlighted in those various studies that have been done. Is that spring will come earlier, summer will be hotter and drier, and any moisture that we get will be typically on those shoulder seasons, late fall, early spring. Or if we do get events, that they'll be more extreme. But so I mean, right now we're hanging in there, but I'm hoping that we see some rain. As you can see here, last year in 24, we really didn't have any rain until late June. You see that little spike right there. That's it. So I'm hoping to see something a little bit more favorable in the coming weeks. But right now, the weather forecast is more of the same. So,
Not to add any more concern to that too, but I mean, last year with that line being where it was, we had restrictions on too, right? So which would have impacted the flow in a positive way.
Yeah. So we'll continue to monitor. Watershed staff are on it and out in the fields. Again, they've indicated things are better this year than they were last year, but again, the bar was set fairly low last year, so they're certainly not back to normal. Councillor Parslow, did you have a question regarding that?
No, Councillor McDonald was first, actually.
sorry.
Councillor McDonald.
Sorry, thank you, Worship. You talked about the weather forecast. Have you been in communication with Environment Canada at all for a good long-term forecast? What their expectations are for our summer?
I haven't. Emergency management staff, so Chelsea and Sarah, had the spring outlook a while back. I know they certainly highlighted the Northeast as a risk for wildfire, which that's proved out over the last 10 days. Thankfully, crews were able to get on it fairly quick. And I think, if I remember correctly, that there was no significant change in the weather in their forecast, at least in the short term. It's kind of more of the same, but I'll get an update, and if there's anything different, I'll let council know.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Parslow?
Couldn't help but comment that one of the impediments that I'm aware of to economic growth is our water system.
Yep.
One of the best things we can do is to improve our water supply. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow.
Absolutely. Okay, so if there's no more questions on water, just really, I mentioned how we're seeing spring a little bit earlier, over the last number of years. That, has operationally added some challenges for us in other departments. What we're seeing is spring comes earlier in town. There's the need or the desire to start dealing with, gravel removals and lawn mowing and cleaning of planters or whatever, those spring functions. And so we're seeing that earlier. And so that's been a shift for us operationally, where traditionally we transfer folks from the arenas out to parks. But with it coming earlier, we still have people in the arenas, but yet we have the need out. So we're going to have to look at that as we move forward. And if the trend continues, we're going to have to see if we can get potentially staff in earlier to assist with spring cleanup before the arena staff are able to leave the arena. It's just, again, a shift in what we're seeing. Or the alternative is you don't, and you leave things for a couple weeks, which I know most people wouldn't like, and I wouldn't either, but it would be a challenge. So that's all I was going to touch on for today.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Any comment I make about this would be mischievous.
Okay.
I would never suggest that we cut the ice season.
No, never.
I won't turn your mic on.
Councillor McDonald would never give me.
I guess one thing I just wanted to touch on that I missed earlier, Kevin, just when we had one of our delegations here, they were just commenting about the team out front, Ashton specifically, but I just wanted to recognize that right now. Just a shout out to that whole team that we have out there. It's it just speaks volume about the customer service and going above and beyond when you have, the first time in 3 years that I've sat here where a delegation like that is specifically pointed out. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Ashton, but also the whole team out there just for what they do, right? So good job.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Anyways, coming later.
All right, next order of business, 13 diary. Nothing. 14 consent calendar. Did anybody want to lift anything? Motion to accept. Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Kemp. I'll call that to order. Call that motion to vote, Vote is closed and it's carried. 15 media questions, and then I'm just going to recess to committee of the whole. So we will take 2 minutes. I don't need a motion to no. I'd like to call the committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, May 6, 2025 to order. First order of business, 2, adoption of minutes. 2.1 minutes of the committee of whole meeting, March 24th, 2025 for adoption. Councillor Earl, second Councillor Kemp. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Any business arising? Oh, all right. Reports 4.1. We have report from the Communications and Engagement Manager. There's no recommendation. All right. Welcome, Communications and Engagement Manager.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me today. I'm just going to walk through my report, so I don't have any fancy presentation because this is going to be just more of a discussion about the items in this report. So a little backstory for the public watching. In October, Council received 3 different requests for multicultural art in various locations throughout the city, as noted in the report. In order to guide Council in making these decisions, Council chose to defer these until a policy for multicultural art was in place. So this report deals with the policy first before dealing with those specific requests for art installations. I chose to bring this report forward through a committee of the whole so that we can have a fulsome conversation around the policy. I want to be sure that I'm on the right track with what your requests were, and also cover a couple of specific details. So further down in the report, you will see that there are some funding mechanisms that myself and my coworkers have come up with. These are not created just by us. They are something that many municipalities use. There are 4 different options here, so I'd like to know any thoughts around these, any questions that you may have, so that we can better bring this policy forward at the next meeting. So with that, are there any questions?
Did you want to speak to those 4?
Did you want me to list them out?
Sure, and maybe just a brief,
Sure.
to open the dialogue.
Sure. So of those 4 mechanisms for funding public art, the first is the municipal public art budget. So this is a budget where the city may receive contributions from both public and private sources towards the budget, and the fund will be used to acquire, commission, and maintain public art. There is also percent for art, the second option. The city will allocate up to 1% of the value of any capital projects under the facilities category that are over $500,000 in total cost. The 1% will be allocated to the Public Art Fund for the purchase, commission, and maintenance of capital public art. This fund will be capped at $100,000, at which time no other funds will be set aside from capital projects in the facilities category until a portion of the fund has been utilized. And just to note, the facilities category is anything that comes through Ryan's bucket. So facilities, parks, for example, a great example would be like the Splash Park, that project. The third option would be third-party funds. So third-party contributors can choose to sponsor a specific art proposal at any time. The city will also seek additional funding through donations, in-kind contributions, and grants when a public art project is proposed. And fourth would be city funds. City staff can recommend using the city operating or capital budget for public art at any time, provided it falls within the approved budget funding of that year. So the intention of listing all 4 is that all 4 would be part of the policy, that there would be different options for funding depending on the level of art. For example, if you had set aside money in the percent for art option, that would be a larger piece of art, so that one that goes hand in hand with a capital project. So for example, if you had a large facility that we were building, you would probably have a large art installation piece. For the other funds, it may cover something that's on the smaller side. For example, we had a request from the Dawson Creek Pride Society to create multicultural art. So that is quite a smaller ticket item. And so that would probably just be covered by operating budget. Does that cover the funding well enough?
Thank you. Yeah. Maybe open some discussion. Any discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Well, at a couple of the FCM conferences I've been to, Winnipeg, and I think it was Edmonton, I went on workshops around public art and how they funded them. And some of the ways they fund them, the second one, is how Calgary funds it.
Mm-hmm.
Edmonton, they have a budget, but it's a significant budget. In Winnipeg, it was $250,000 for public art. And they leverage that money for other funds. So it's also has a leveraging capacity for other grants. Because in Alberta, they have a very robust Alberta Arts Council that has funds a lot of things. And it was interesting how the art was chosen, where it was located. It's become a tourist attraction. It's also become a ways of improving poorly developed parts of town. The term is gentrification, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So number two, I met the guy who was the executive director for the Calgary one in Grand Prairie at a workshop, and yes, they have a lot of community engagement in the selection, and also their Indigenous communities are highly involved as well, and it's a good way of incorporating and recognizing the vital role our ethnic groups, such as in our town, the Filipino community or the South Asian community. Mm-hmm. But number two is gives them quite a lot of money in when there's lots of development going on. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. I guess just to add to that one, sorry, I just seen you on that, Councillor McDonald. The percent for art. So just so I understand that, like if that was a decision to move forward in, so is it 1% of that project, then that 1%, so say it's $1 million project, so 1% is $10,000. So in that project, $10,000 towards that project, there'll be art added to it? Or is that's just a fund that goes to the overall art for the community?
So did you want to speak to this, or are you okay with me taking it? Okay. So the 1% would be set aside into the public art fund. And so the idea would be that you then would go and commission an art piece to go alongside that project if it fit. But if not, it is there in that public art fund to be used.
For art,
for art, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I appreciate the report. I appreciate everything on there. Just on a personal note here, I'd like to voice my discontent to see my motion for a crosswalk put in as just public art. When I made that motion to council, it was for us to make a statement, to invite my fellow council members in the city to make a statement of solidarity towards our Treaty 8 neighbors in regards to truth and reconciliation and our need to stand up and say that we believe of a need for truth and reconciliation and not just have another piece of art that reflected the nations we share this land with. I would have preferred to see that completely on its own, not done as a piece of art. Because I think it's more than just a piece of art. It is a statement of solidarity, a statement of our support with our Treaty 8 neighbors and the atrocities they have suffered through residential schools, through the Indian Act, through the treaty misappropriations. Thank you. I just wanted to state that.
I've got to leave now. I totally agree with Kyle.
Okay.
I think he's dead right.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Thanks, Councillor
So I
McDonald.
have to leave, but Mary needs me to take her home.
Okay.
Have a good afternoon without me.
We certainly will.
Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. So I guess picking up on Councillor McDonald's point, how are we distinguishing between, say, I mean, because a crosswalk, whether we're talking about the Pride crosswalk, Truth and Reconciliation, or someone proposed a crosswalk celebrating veterans in tandem with Remembrance Day last year, those, I mean, in a sense, they're public displays of art because they're painted, but they're kind of also a standardized thing. How are we making that distinction? Just to Kyle's point, because I get the intent of it is it was a statement of solidarity with a community that's been marginalized, not necessarily let's paint a mural in, those are trying to achieve two different things. So how are we ensuring that they're not crossing the streams?
So, a couple of differences. One, the Pride Society came and asked us to do a crosswalk. Council asked us to do a crosswalk for reconciliation, but engage with folks. We've, and Melissa will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we've engaged with some elders and some folks. They don't want a crosswalk.
Okay.
So they would like something different, like a mural or art. So again, this goes back
So
to
now
having
we
those
have
discussions with people to ensure that whatever we're trying to achieve is actually hitting the mark.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So that's how we
I
evolve
think,
to this.
you know, if they come to us and say we want that, that's different than us saying we should do that, but check in with them first, and so that's what we're doing.
Okay.
That's what I understand, Melissa.
That's correct.
Yeah. No.
And,
Okay. I appreciate the
and,
clarification.
Just a note, I apologize for the timeline with trying to figure out if the policy should come first or the report should come first. So, yeah, that crosswalks report will come soon.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for that. I appreciate clarification. I mean, it's an interesting subject. I mean, I like the idea of having procedures in place that if we're going to get into the business of public art, which we are now with the murals, we'll put some meat on the policy bone and ensure we've got a means of paying for it and maintaining it. Anytime we as a government draw lines in the sand around how we define public art, we're kind of kicking a hornet's nest because there's so much subjectivity there. But yeah, okay. I mean, if the crosswalk conversation is a different one, I can accept that. I'm fine with otherwise what's been laid out here. But yeah, it's tough because as Councillor McDonald noted, the crosswalk was not so much an artistic statement as a political one, and now we're being requested by the community. We approached about it to make an artistic statement that's also political, and how does that intersect with what we're trying to achieve with this and what we do with the crosswalks, which is, as Councillor McDonald noted, kind of entirely different. So, but I do appreciate the report, and I'm interested to hear my colleagues' thoughts.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Other discussion? So are you looking for like direction on one of these four funding public? Because I guess one, if you are, well, two questions. And then the other part of the percentage for art one, so it says capped at $100,000. So say we have a bunch of capital projects one year and we have $100,000 in that fund. Would it be carried over each year? So if that fund's nothing gets spent that year into art, it's not like that 100's now going into reserves or getting spent somewhere else. It's then the next year there wouldn't be an extra 1%. Is that correct?
That's correct. It would sit at that $100,000 until it was spent and art was purchased. And then when that was used, we would again pull from the 1% of a project that was over $500,000.
Okay. And then are you looking for one of those four?
So I'm actually looking to just ensure that you're comfortable with all four. All four would go in the policy, and specifically the percent for art. This funding mechanism was recommended before by staff in 2017, so that's why I specifically chose to hone in on the funding first to make sure that you're comfortable, and then I will just run through it again, ensure it's good before I bring that policy back.
Okay, thank you. Councillor
Earl? Thank you. So with respect to the funding public art, I guess the one thing I would like some more understanding on, if we are soliciting or accepting donations, presumably that's going to be based on something we've pitched to the community and not creating the impression among the community that they then get to put their finger on the scale with respect to what it looks like. You know what I mean? Once again, it goes into that kind of gray area, whereas they might be thinking they're buying more influence than they actually are through a donation, and we need to ensure that's not the case.
Yes, through your worship, that's a great thing to note. I think that's something I could add some detail into with the attached procedure for this policy. Exactly. Yeah, we should be sure that they know what they're getting when they're donating. There has been an instance in the past where I know of a local business donating paint for art. So it's not something that hasn't happened before, but I think that some parameters around it would be necessary.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Sudnick?
Thank you, Worship. Just clarification on the capital projects. Is it any capital project, all capital projects? Is there just any capital project is going to have this 1% attached to it?
Facilities.
It's community service.
Yeah,
related.
so any facility project over 500,000. So, it's a sizable project to start with. And it's not a road. It would only be like buildings, building renovations, like splash park, some big development in a park space, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sudnick. Any other discussion? No? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa, for the time and putting the report together. And, much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'd like to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting, and we will go back into, am I good to go right back into the regular meeting, Carl? Okay. All right, I'd like to call the regular meeting of City Council for Tuesday, May 6th, back to order. Next order of business was recessed to the closed meeting. So for agenda item 5.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expiration of land or improvements, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Section 91J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and Section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. Do I need to reread 6.1? Yeah, okay. Agenda item 6.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expiration of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Section 91K, negotiations and related discussion respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at the preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And section 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and provincial government. Agenda item 7.1, section 92D, a matter that under another enactment is such that the public must be excluded from the meeting. That's good. Okay. A motion? Yeah. Councillor McDonald, second. Councillor Apollonio. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried.